I love what Alto-8's been doing with their watches. Now if that's any indication, channel regulars know that these dashing pirate standards are incredibly high and unreasonably illogical. So, suffice to say, Alto-8's got their work cut out for them. But you know what? Those boys of theirs in their offices might be smoking something quite exotic because they dared not just send one watch, but actually two for these filthy hands to review. Now, will this brand survive this disastrous decision to send us two controversial watches to take a look at? Let's find out. This video is brought to you by Olto-8. There's a clear escalation of quality from this brand as it continues to release interesting after interesting collection. The packaging immediately stands out as this uses a more premium display case that lends itself to the overall presentation. Alto-8 needs to go through those lengths because this hyperwatch design commands such an attention. It looks the part, but weighs much heftier because of its stainless steel case. It also unsurprisingly sports a budget-conscious Miyota caliber that you immediately forget right after you experience this watch. In all truthfulness, the Richard Mille experience begins with the case shape. This design is amazingly comfortable to wear even though it sits bold and impressive with its 13.2mm thickness. Alto-8 released two variants of this case design, with the other being called the Explore X. Both share the same case dimensions and profile. You'll feel virtually no difference between the two, and that is a deliberate design choice that likely contributes to the collection's affordability. Operating the watch is straightforward with a single pull to set the time. This Starburst variant has a small second subdial that also hacks. Another thing to keep in mind is that this is a non-threaded crown. While it's 30 meters water resistant, I would not recommend submerging this underwater for prolonged periods of time. What I would recommend is that you check out all of your options within the price range. The Tissot Quartz PRX would be a great consideration, although it looks quite a bit reserved compared to the Starburst's imposing dimensions and design. Baby wrists like mine will likely settle with the PRX. Beside a bulky steel G-Shock like the AWM 500, the thickness is much closer. Many watch enthusiasts, however, may actually prefer the mechanical nature of this RM lookalike than this Quartz Crisis offspring. So let's compare it against another automatic high piece, the Seiko 5 Sports GMT. You'll likely get more refinement and usability with the GMT, but the Starburst clearly outshines it in the amusement and aesthetic categories. These categories may feel superficial to many seasoned watch fans, but to the vast majority of consumers, this design actually offers exactly what they're looking for. This tonneau case has multiple finishes from brushed to polished facets. Even the screws on the dial creates a gorgeous contrasting light play. The short rubber strap has some air ducts that enhances the sporty feel while providing a wide range of sizing options. The sign buckle matches the case color, and the first ring keeper has these discreet slats that hold it in place. I like this feature a lot and hope to see it more on other watches. The crown is also the only place that's signed, making this a little less flashy than expected. If there was a part that I wanted to be signed, is the rotor. This one still bears the generic Miyota rotor that I would pay extra to be decorated. Back to the dial, we can spot another design element that Alto-8 borrowed somewhere else, this time from Roger Dubuy's Excalibur Star. That watch is literally 1,000 times more expensive than this one, so I'm content we're able to enjoy it here. This is one of the strengths of the Starburst. There is a lot of geometry and texture going on the dial, and yet it still manages to be somewhat legible. One of my favorites is this crystal dial that holds the scales for the small seconds indicator. It floats above the race car inspired dial grille that lends a dimensionality whenever it's hit by light. The open heart window also makes this a lot more dynamic and lively compared to the Explore X models. These elements are also beautifully loomed, rounding out its sporty impression. Priced at $499, this is much more affordable than comparable RM homages available. To make things even sweeter, you can get an additional discount with the link in the description below. There's also a few more color combinations, with one of them being reviewed by the Indonesian Jack Forster Adrian from Horology Story. Pay him a visit because your horological pirate captain told you to do so. One thing that I don't need to tell you is that this has a familiar case with an interesting dial while working with Microbrand parts. The culmination is obviously derivative, yet attainable. But allow me to put things into perspective. It's either you take this amazing deal or sell 3 kidneys, likely 2 from your mother-in-law and 1 from your neighbor, to come up with enough money to own the real deal. So in that sense, you are in fact saving lives by buying the Starburst from Olto-8. And that is the noblest thing a watch pirate like you can do. A lot of people are looking for that Richard Mille style watch, but doesn't want to drop that Richard Mille dollars on one of them. So Olto-8 got them covered, not just with the design that's very familiar, but also incorporating some designs from other brands. Now, it doesn't look cheap, it looks quite refined, so it's something that you could probably enjoy for a long while. Now, that's the Starburst version. There's also an ExploreX version that we're going to be releasing in a separate video in the next few days. So watch out for that.